Hey, 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 it's him. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Hi, it's me, Andrej. I'm not going to tell you anything about what it's like to ride this Ducati because so far I've only done 2 sessions and both were in the wet. So this video will be a bit unusual, but maybe you'll still get some information out of it. Unfortunately, I would really like it to be dry and I would really like to give this machine everything it's got, but in reality I can't. Why? Because this motorcycle has absurdly good electronics which have allowed us to ride safely and continue to ride safely in these conditions. No one feels threatened, everyone wants to ride and everyone is enjoying themselves. But let's take it step by step. What's the deal with Ducati presenting the V4 again for 2020? And why did they go all out to hold this presentation all the way here in Bahrain? Well, it's currently the best-selling sport motorcycle in the world. Can you imagine that? The most expensive and instantly the best-selling, which also shows what a crazy world we live in, at least economically speaking. But honestly, I'm really happy for everyone who can afford this motorcycle. I'd buy one myself too. The problem is that everyone who bought one well, okay, maybe not everyone. Most of the people who bought this machine aren't really able to ride it the way it was designed to be ridden. Sure, you can get on the highway, open up the throttle all the way, use all 214 horsepower unless you live in Poland, put on an aftermarket exhaust, and then you've got 226 horsepower, and you don't care that the motorcycle isn't street legal, so you're blasting along at 320 kilometers per hour. I don't know what the GPS showed there, maybe not 320, but I think a real 300, yeah. The problem is, this motorcycle is designed for the track. Well, actually, it's not a problem, it's designed for the track. When you take it to the track, you're terrified. You're genuinely terrified. If someone is not a professional rider, and even some professionals say that this motorcycle is actually quite difficult to ride on the track, if someone says there's no problem, that they can handle it, they're definitely lying. I'm saying this from experience because every time I got off the Ducatio, probably saw the test from 2018, from 2 years ago in Valencia, my hands were shaking, I just couldn't pull myself together. I was red and swollen from all the emotions that this motorcycle pumped into me. And then the same thing happened every time I rode, because I had the chance to ride this motorcycle in Poznan, and I also had the opportunity to ride the Ducati V4S race bike. So if you follow our channel, you've seen how I reacted and what kind of emotions it triggered. The thing is, those emotions didn't translate into lap times. Because at that time I had the chance to test the Panigale V4 alongside the Aprilia V4 1100. And it was like, I'd get on the Panigale and it was, wow, what a beast. What a beast. So much is happening. What on earth is going on? Then I'd get on the Aprilia, twist the throttle and think, well, okay, it's a fast bike, but not scary in any way. And honestly, compared to the Panigale, it doesn't even feel like it's moving. It turned out though that the lap times were a second faster in favor of the Aprilia. Exactly, and that just goes to show that it doesn't matter how insanely powerful the bike is if you can't actually use that power. So the primary goal for Ducati's engineers was to make absolutely sure that people who consistently buy the Panigale again would finally have a much better chance to actually ride it more effectively, to make more extensive use of its impressive performance capabilities and not get easily overtaken by other bikes. Because honestly, it's kind of embarrassing if you have the most expensive, supposedly the best, most advanced bike, especially one with those winglets in the corner end, yet other leader bikes, even older ones, are passing you just because you're struggling to handle all that power. How did they achieve that? When it comes to the power itself, it hasn't increased or decreased. The motorcycle meets Euro 5 standards, which is important. I actually have a note card here for the first time in my life, because I'm talking more about the technical aspects of riding than about my impressions, which is unusual for me. Usually you read about that in the magazine. Anyway, it doesn't matter. As for the engine, the main thing they did was smooth out its mapping, meaning they optimized the ride-by-wire system. How is this potentiometer supposed to work here? How is it supposed to deliver torque to us? They also refined the traction control, which, to put it simply, no longer works like this, but like this. So as a direct result, it reacts much more quickly and responsively to precisely what is happening with the rear wheel. And this effectively drives the entire machine much more efficiently and powerfully, thereby optimizing its overall performance. Because it was always good, very good, since Ducati is famous for its electronics. But even so, when you were riding at full throttle and happened to lose traction, the amplitude, I like that word. Is that even the right word? The pumping, the cutting off and delivering of power would build up. because, you know, a little bit of slipping and regaining traction by the rear wheel already means a slightly bigger movement in the shock absorber. And all of that keeps transferring further and further. And it could get to the point where we were riding like this, coming out of that corner. There was power, the motorcycle was accelerating, but it wasn't completely stable. Here, it's supposed to be better, and I believe it is, because in these conditions, we're practically using traction all the time. Basically, after the second session, when I saw how fast you can go on slicks, because this is my first time on slicks, that's why the first session was a bit cautious. I just started giving it full throttle on the exit, and only now in these slippery conditions can you really feel how brilliantly it works, because the motorcycle just accelerates smoothly. The more you straighten it up, the harder it accelerates, and once it's fully upright, it becomes the economy of the overall. So it really works amazingly well. I've already tested all possible levels of intervention, and now I understand everything better. If you set it up perfectly, it works too, but in conditions like today, at those higher levels, it doesn't mean the bike is gripping, just keeps going. As you can see, overall, the grip here on the track is quite inconsistent. Because when you're riding on the path, then let's be honest, there's some gas, but it still picks up that. Just that this motorcycle has so much of that man with a sticker feel. That's part of the fact that they've improved the geometry a bit, raised the whole center of gravity, simply put, the frame is not less stiff. This effect wasn't achieved by increasing power, but rather by taking the frame from the V4R, which was developed strictly for the track, and putting it into the V4S, where this frame has fewer in numbers. The frame stiffness has decreased by 30%. Can you imagine that? A 30% decrease is really a lot. If you want to see this frame up close, check out our video from our visit to Ducati Torun. It was the first Panigale V4R in Poland, and that I play around with that frame a bit. Besides that, as you can see, the fairings have been changed both for better and for worse. It's better in that the windscreen is higher, the fairings are wider, it's easier to tuck in behind this motorcycle. So even on the street, if you go on a trip from time to time, it'll be more comfortable. It's a shame, because now the motorcycle isn't as slim and sexy as the first V4. And now we've got these winglets, right? Winglets, this time they're not carbon fiber like on the V4, because those carbon ones were really nice, sexy, but they cost a ridiculous amount of money. But I want you to know that these winglets probably do have some justification. First of all, according to the data, at 230, 270 kilometers per hour, it's about 30 kilos. And at 37 kilos of additional load on the front wheel. And I don't know if that's thanks to this. I'd have to take it off and go for a ride. But coming here on the straight at 300 kilometers per hour, I saw 300 flash by, well, 280, 290. I have no problem braking almost exactly where I should brake on dry pavement, of course, about 50 meters earlier, but with a big safety margin. What I'm getting at is that from full speed, I hit the brakes and I'm not afraid that the front will slip out. That's also thanks to the excellent ABS, but you can also feel that this motorcycle is really planted. These winglets are also supposed to help, especially when entering corners on dry asphalt and so on. And so on. As for the geometry itself, what exactly is done and how, I won't go into that now. I'll describe it in the magazine since I've already talked about it a lot in the March issue. I'll also show some very interesting telemetry charts there, which illustrate the years 2019 to 2020. And it's not just based on the test rider Alessandro Wally, but they also tested this motorcycle with riders of various skill levels. And imagine that Michel Pirot, the fastest test rider at Ducati, was only 3 seconds slower on this motorcycle than on the machine prepared for World Superbikes, or in the SI specification for the Italian Championships. It's practically the same thing, a mixed race machine. Besides that, he was actually about 0.6 seconds faster on this motorcycle, I think. Wait, I don't want to mislead you, so let me tell you. Yes, Pirot was 0.4 seconds faster on the 220 than on the 219. The second tester, who was a bit more experienced, went 0.8 seconds fast, 0.8 real seconds faster than on the 2019. And the least experienced tester was as much as 1.3 seconds, 1 second and 3/10 faster than on the 2019 Panigale. And this shows that theoretically, the effect they wanted to achieve is possible. Because, for example, that's the second I was missing last year. I can't wait to take this motorcycle out on a dry track that I know, where I have reference times to see if these changes really worked. At first glance, yes, the motorcycle is easier to ride. It's still extremely wild. It hasn't lost its excitement. And what I value most about it today is that I'm here, it's raining, I should be upset that it's raining, but honestly, it doesn't really bother me because I'm having fun riding on wets for the first time, and this motorcycle makes me feel simply safe and confident. I think I've said what's most important. I'll describe the rest in the magazine and show all those charts we talked about, so I invite you to check out the printed magazine as a break from computers. And here, if you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a comment. We can keep talking about this motorcycle. Take care.